on Maybe Someday, it was really, as far as recording of the piano, I kind of had to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, because when Richie and I got together with Frank Myers and Billy Montana, the song came to me on the guitar, and that tuning I was talking about earlier, Dadgad. So I really had no idea how I was going to apply it to the piano for the recording. But the strong thing about Maybe Someday is the melody of the entire song. So I think my biggest challenge was to stay out of Richie's way, so his voice and the message that he's getting across can happen. While Richie's singing, I just kind of stayed out of the way with very simple, but the great thing about music, you don't have to do flashy stuff to make it work, and it fit within the song, and once again allowed Richie's message and voice to be heard.
Basically, the chord structure of the song is pretty simple. I mean, it doesn't do anything really tricky, but I think what a lot of the hypnotic part of the song is that little repeating guitar thing that was on the demo that I copied. So it pretty much does that the whole song over the verses and the choruses. So there's a guitar track that's doing that pretty much the whole time. And then the basic chords of the songs. On the second verse, I use a guitar with a tremolo bar, which I don't have here today, but I was kind of trying to do, and I'm by no means Jeff Beck, but I just love the way he uses the tremolo bar for his vibrato and for his dips. So I would play and then dip the bar and just do those kind of things where the tremolo bar kind of just takes over the sound of that note or whatever. The solo I did on that song was the tracking solo. A lot of times when you're recording, your basic job when you're tracking is get the bass and drums, keyboard, just all the basic tracks together, because you can go back and do all the vocals and do all the backgrounds, and I can usually go in and do redo solos so I can spend more time on them. But the solo on the track is actually my tracking solo. It was the one I did when we were recording all the drum tracks. And it just, we'd played the song a couple times, and I was just trying out some different things, and the track we ended up keeping, the solo, everybody was like, man, that's great. So I was like, well, why change it? Plus, it's just kind of cool to have that spontaneous kind of feel. I probably could have done a solo I'd be a little bit more proud of, or do it a little bit more cleanly, but there's just something cool about that whole feel of that song. Whatever we did on that tracking day was it was a really good moment. We captured almost everything. We'd think the only thing we added was the vocals.
As a drummer, I sort of approached the song as like, okay, I knew this was a big love song, and it needed to have a lot of dynamics, and it needed to have a lot of power. So one of the really cool things about the studio we cut that song in, Ocean Way in Nashville, is that the ceilings in this place it used to be a church, so you can imagine the ceilings were like 30, 35 feet high. And these mic stands we had for the overheads for the drums were so large. I think they're the biggest stands I've ever seen for microphones. They flew these microphones like almost to the ceiling, and I think that helped to get that really big love song power sound, in that room, and that room had a lot to do with it. And then just I approached it from like dynamically on the choruses. Obviously, the choruses needed to be really, really huge, and when it came down to the verses, it needed to come down and be really tight. So that's kind of what I thought going into the song was dynamics. Have a huge love song and have it this dynamically very, very unique.
There was an extended intro that we did, and it was I thought really cool at the time, where I just played this little piano part. And with that, there was this big cello going on and strings that came along with it, but it added about an extra 18 seconds to the song. We cut it out. I had to edit myself, which is really tough to do.
I think my favorite part of Maybe Someday is the chorus, because it just has one of those choruses that that soars and just challenges me as a vocalist. And I told Dean and Frank and Billy when we wrote this, I thought, this is really high, but let me see if I can do it. Someday, someday, I would understand why you say goodbye. And some way, I would let you go and get on with my life. I'm waiting, waiting to open up my eyes and feel alive in a better place. It hasn't happened, baby. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. I'm not a piano player, but I'll leave that to Dean.